Welcome back to Everyday English. Today we're diving into a lively dialogue that really captures how we use everyday phrases and vocabulary in real English. Right now we're exploring situations that, for example, might be a bit embarrassing but super useful when chatting casually.
Yep, absolutely. It's like that conversation where someone forgets a name and says it just slipped my mind, right? And then there's all that great talk around being in a bit of a hurry and sharing contact details.
Exactly. And what I really love is how the dialogue starts off with a friendly greeting, "How's it going?" which is so natural. The speakers mix casual expressions with a more structured vocabulary lesson. It's very engaging.
Right? It's spot on for learners because it shows you what people really say every day in, actual conversations. It's more dynamic than the typical textbook dialogue.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? They even cover those moments that can be a little embarrassing, like forgetting someone's name at a conference. It really reminds you that these awkward moments happen to all of us, and you can smooth them over with phrases like, "Your name has slipped my mind."
Yeah, totally. And it's important because while it might feel awkward, using expressions like "in a bit of a hurry" really helps convey that you're pressed for time without being rude. And speaking of that, did you notice how they break down the vocabulary takeaways?
Oh yes, they do a neat job of explaining each key phrase with examples. They showed 3 examples for "in a bit of a hurry," which makes it super clear, through repetition and context.
Right, exactly. And the phrase "contact details" is another gem. It's not just about names. It covers those essential details like phone numbers and email addresses that you find on a business card. That's crucial in a professional setting.
For sure. And what about the phrase "terrible with"? It's such a relatable expression. I mean, everyone can say, "I'm terrible with names" or "I'm terrible with directions." It adds a personal touch to the conversation.
Right. And it's funny how these phrases let learners sound more like native speakers. By including everyday weaknesses, like forgetting numbers or faces, it really humanizes the dialogue.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, "Hey, even native speakers get mixed up sometimes." That builds confidence for learners. But don't you think sometimes "slipped my mind" could be a little confusing? I mean, It's a bit idiomatic.
I see what you mean. It could be a little tricky if you take it literally. However, the dialogue provides context with examples, making it easier to grasp, like saying, "I forgot your birthday. It completely slipped my mind." Once you hear it a couple times, it starts to stick.
Right, and the repetition is key here. They repeat the phrases several times and then offer different scenarios. For instance, "around here" is shown as meaning "close by," and even "around the corner." That subtle shift in meaning is fascinating.
Yep, it really is. And the dialogue shows how context affects meaning. Like when someone says, "Do you live around here?" versus "My office is right around the corner." It illustrates how flexible the phrase can be.
Yeah. And then there's the Fluency Builder section where they talk about putting language together. They begin with "How's it going?" which is so common yet sometimes overlooked in language lessons. It's casual and feels friendly.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that they also provide practical advice. For example, asking for someone's card when you've forgotten their name, or even using an email address as a cue for the full name. Those are really handy tips.
Totally. It's practical advice you can actually apply next time you're at a meeting or conference. And what's really brilliant is that they don't just give you vocabulary, they actually integrate these phrases into a real-life dialogue. That approach lets you hear the natural rhythm of English conversation.
Yeah, that natural tone is what sets this lesson apart. It's not overly formal, so it feels genuine, like chatting with a friend. But I do wonder, do you think the dialogue might be a bit fast for beginners?
That's a fair point. They do mention that the first dialogue is fast and encourage learners not to worry if they catch everything immediately. Then they repeat it at a slower pace for clarity. It's a good balance. First challenge you, then reinforce your learning.
True. Yeah, that step-by-step approach is clever. It ensures you're not overwhelmed initially, but still gets you used to real-time speech. And I love how they mix a bit of humor into it. For instance, when someone is so terrible with names that they forget them at a reunion.
Absolutely. The humor makes the lesson memorable and relatable. I mean, who hasn't been in a situation where you totally blank out on a name? It's like, "Sorry, your name just slipped my mind," and then you laugh it off.
Yeah, and that brings us to the cultural nuance of language learning. Understanding these phrases gives learners insights into what native speakers value in a conversation, being casual, acknowledging mistakes, and even laughing off awkward moments.
Right? And aside from vocabulary, there's an element of soft skills here too. For instance, how to apologize gracefully when you forget something important. It subtly teaches you context-appropriate responses.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. And it's like building a mental library of responses. One moment you're discussing foreign investment, and the next you're navigating an embarrassing moment at a networking event. That variety really boosts your overall communicative competence.
Exactly. It's like having a toolbox of phrases for different scenarios. And the neat part is that after each section, they reiterate the vocabulary, ensuring that you have plenty of repetition to lock in the learning.
Yes, the repetition is essential, especially since phrases like "in a bit of a hurry" appear several times in varying contexts. It reinforces the idea that language is flexible and context dependent.
Right. And let's not forget the final recap where they go over everything. Vocabulary words, natural speech tips, and even a bit on pronunciation. It feels like you're being coached to sound more like a native speaker in everyday situations.
Yeah, indeed. And the clever integration of fluency builder segments shows how dissecting the dialogue can enhance your fluency. It's not just about memorizing words, it's about knowing how to put them together naturally.
Exactly. And you know, it's interesting to see how even small details like the placement of "around here" or "around the corner" can change the nuance of a conversation. It's these little differences that help round out a learner's understanding.
Totally. And as someone who's been learning a language for years, I really appreciate lessons that acknowledge the messy, imperfect nature of language. Not every conversation is polished, and that's okay. Sometimes it's the stumbles and repetitions that make our speech more authentic.
Absolutely. It's like, those moments are not mistakes, but natural parts of conversation. And hearing phrases repeated, like the dialogue does, gives you a mental script to draw from when you're in real-life interactions.
And I guess the takeaway here is that regular exposure to real, sometimes imperfect dialogue helps you build fluency. Knowing phrases like "how's it going?" or "I'm in a bit of a hurry" not only improves your vocabulary, but also your understanding of the cultural context behind these expressions.
Exactly. And another neat point is how the lesson emphasizes practical application. By instructing listeners to visit the website and ask questions, it really invites you into a community of learners.
Yeah, right. And that interactivity is crucial. It turns passive learning into an active dialogue, kind of mirroring the very conversation we're having right now. And it makes you feel part of a larger conversation about language.
For sure. And just to throw in an analogy, it's like cooking with a recipe that not only lists the ingredients, but also shows you a video of someone actually making the dish. It bridges the gap between knowing the words and actually living them.
Absolutely. I like that analogy. When you think about it, language learning is practical. You need to see how phrases work in different scenarios, just like you need to see cooking techniques performed live to really get them.
Yes, it's really immersive. And sometimes that immersion means re-listening to a dialogue at different speeds, first fast, then slower, as a way to catch every nuance. That method is super effective.
Totally. It's a blend of listening, repeating, and engaging. And I appreciate that the lesson doesn't shy away from acknowledging those embarrassing moments too. It normalizes mistakes, which is a huge confidence booster for learners.
Right. And by addressing those vulnerable moments, like forgetting a name or being terrible with numbers, it humanizes learning and makes it less intimidating. It reminds you that making mistakes is part of the journey.
Yeah, exactly. So, whether you're catching up on a dialogue that covers foreign investment chatter or just practicing everyday greetings, these lessons help build a robust, practical vocabulary, and that's what makes them so engaging and valuable.
Well said. With lessons like these, you'll not only learn the language but also gain the confidence to use it in real-world, sometimes awkward, definitely genuine situations.
Yeah, right on. And remember, every time you practice, you're getting one step closer to sounding as natural as a native speaker, even if you occasionally slip up and say, "It slipped my mind."
Exactly. Keep practicing, keep enjoying the process, and don't be afraid of those little stumbles. They're just part of the adventure in learning a new language.
Thanks for that insightful chat. This lesson definitely provides plenty of tools and confidence boosters for any English learner tuning in.
Absolutely. And until next time, keep using those everyday phrases. And remember, it's okay to be a little, imperfect sometimes. Catch you later.
Catch you later!